بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين وخاتم النبيين الحبيب المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته الكرام المنتجبين. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, may all the praise be to God, and may all the peace and blessings be upon all the prophets, especially Prophet Muhammad, and upon his purified progeny and the believers of his companions. And may all the peace and blessings be upon all of you, dear brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We continue with our Qur'an study. We start a new chapter today. This is chapter al-Hujuraat, the chambers. This chapter is number 49 in the Quran, but in the order that it was descended, it was 107. This chapter has 18 verses, relatively shorter, a short chapter compared to other verses, but it contains many important and crucial subjects regarding manners in general, regarding how to maintain how to maintain the integrity and safety in a community, in a healthy community. Because our faith is very concerned about to keep the society and the community safe and healthy, with healthy relationship between members of this society. This verse was revealed obviously in Medina in the 9th year after migration, when the Muslim community start growing at a very faster rate. A lot of people embraced Islam. Now, I would say almost all the Arabian Peninsula was under the leadership of the Prophet. And this year, the year 9 specifically, was named in history Am al-Wufud, the year of delegations. Because people from around the Arabian Peninsula came, tribes and communities and cities came to offer their allegiance to the faith of Islam, to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or to sign some kind of agreement that they would stay on their faith, but they would pay taxes to the Muslim state. So we start with this chapter, and I think it has a lot of lessons for all of us, especially during this month and especially during this time as well. Also, what is important to say about this chapter, almost every verse in this chapter has an interesting story, a story that's good to know about. So in reality, this chapter reflects a lot of corners and aspects of the Muslim history in Medina. So we get to know about a lot of historical stories that took place at that time. So let us start with the first verse in this chapter. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقدموا بين يدي الله ورسوله واتقوا الله إن الله سميع عليم.
In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. O you who believe, do not put yourselves forward before God and His Messenger. Be mindful of God. Surely God is all hearing, all knowing.
The sound was cut off. Surely God is all hearing, all knowing.
Should I repeat it?
All right. No, just the last word that dropped. So I finished your translation. This verse actually teaches Muslims how to deal with the Prophet and how to deal with his decisions. Once he makes a decision, what is our responsibility? This is a command from God that once the Prophet decides on something, you do not impose on him something else. Once he makes his mind, is not polite, and it is not right for somebody else to recommend something otherwise. Or even before the Prophet makes his decision or relay what God has told him, do not rush into doing or saying something before you listen to the Prophet, before the Prophet ﷺ would say what God wants or what the Prophet decides. Of course, this does not close the door against suggestions to the Prophet. The Prophet, many times, he would ask his companions, people in his court, what do you think about this? What do you think we should do in regard to, this war, this attack, this letter or something like that? So he would invite them to share their opinion. And there is a chapter in the Qur'an called Surah al-Shura, consultation, to consult with others. But once the Prophet makes his decision, and the Prophet decisions are God's commands, then no one has the right to say something otherwise. Commentators mention many stories behind this verse, many narrations. I really don't know which one is the correct, so I'm going to briefly mention 3 or 4 of them, what commentators mentioned about this. Some commentators talk about what happened when the Prophet signed a peace agreement with the leaders of Mecca. It's called Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, the peace agreement of Hudaybiyah, named after the place where this agreement was signed. The articles of that agreement looked like that they are not in favor of Muslims. They seem to be a little bit unjust. But of course, the end result was in favor for Muslims. Muslims did not know what is going to happen in the future. So they were upset, and they expressed their opposition to this treatment. They said, this is going against our dignity and our integrity. This is not what we have came for. And that was against the command of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So some say this verse is related to this case. I really doubt that, because the peace agreement with the pagans of Mecca was signed in the year 6 after migration. And this revelation came in the year 9. So there are 3 years difference. It may, but I really doubt, it may refer to that story, but I don't think so. Or, it could be something else. The second narration, it says that there were a group of Muslims who always would say, we wish that the Quran would make mention of us, mention of our acts or our faith or our work or whatever we do. So this came first. This verse came to say, you know what, don't suggest to God what to include in his revelation. I believe this looks like it because this could be at that time. Other narration said the Prophet left Medina for a mission, and he appointed someone to be in charge of Medina in his position. So two of the companions, they argued. Everyone said, you should appoint this one. The other said, we should appoint this one. And after he already has mentioned, has named the person, so this verse came. Anyway, this verse applies to all times, not only at the time of the Prophet. At the time of the Prophet, Muslims did not have the right to say anything otherwise what the Prophet said, what already he said. And even today, if we know for sure the Prophet had taught us something, and it is, an authentic hadith, then nobody has the right to say something again in contradicting to the saying of the Prophet. Let's say the Prophet said, when you travel, there is no fasting, for example, or you make your prayers, your Dhuhr and Asr and Isha prayers, you cut them to half, short, to half, qasr. Then no one has the right to say something else. So this applies to the time of the Prophet and to every time that if we know really what, of course, the Quran is very obvious. We cannot do something other than that what the Quran says. And if there is if we are sure about an authentic hadith, a statement from the Prophet, we cannot say something otherwise. All right. The next verse, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي ولا تجهروا له بالقول كجهر بعضكم لبعض أن تحبط أعمالكم وأنتم لا تشعرون.
O you who believe, do not raise your voice above the voice of the Prophet, nor speak loudly to him, as you would speak loudly to one another, lest your deeds become void while you are unaware.
So probably you have noticed these verses, the first one, the second one, and many to come in this chapter, they start with Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu, O you who believe. So in fact, these instructions and commands are given to the community of the faithful. This is part of the teachings of the Quran that applies to the believers, the community of the faithful. And it also gives us a hint about the challenges that were facing the Prophet in Medina. We already know how the pagans dealt with the Prophet in Mecca. Now, in Medina, don't think that because the head of a state, everything was easy and comfortable for him. No, in Medina, there were constant challenges and problems. The wars that were waged against Muslims from outside enemies, and within the faithful, the community of the faithful, that there were challenges and problems as well. They were humans, basically. So their behaviors reflect their human nature. And here it says, all you who believe, do not raise your voice over the voice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is a very famous tafsir written by a scholar who lived in the 12th century, about 700 years or so ago. His name is Muhammad al-Qurtubi, Muhammad al-Ansari al-Qurtubi. He wrote a book, a tafsir, a commentary on the Quran, named it Al-Jami' li-Ahkam al-Quran, the collection of the commands and the orders in the Quran. He narrates this story, and he says in his tafsir that this story is narrated by al-Bukhari and al-Tirmidhi. He says, you remember we said 9 year was named the year of delegations. So a lot of delegations from different parts of Arabian Peninsula came to the Prophet to either embrace Islam or to reach an agreement so they lived within their community, maintaining their faith. Among these tribes, the tribe of Bani Tamim, this was one of the biggest tribes among Arabs at that time, and is still there today. Members of this tribe live in many countries in the Middle East. It's a huge tribe. So they sent a delegation with their head, Al-Aqra' ibn Habis. His name is Al-Aqra' ibn Habis, came to offer allegiance to the Prophet. When he was there with his group of possibly, they say, between 19 on some narrations to 70 on some other narrations, there was a conflict between two of the companions, close companions to the Prophet. One of them said to the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, ista'milhu. This man, Al-Aqra', keep him in charge of his community, to be your representative, and he would be a man of authority endorsed by you. Another companion said, لا تستعمله يا رسول الله. No, do not use him. Do not give him an authority. The first companion said to the second one, why are you opposing me? You say that only to oppose me. The second said, no, I'm not saying that to oppose you. So a serious argument was raised, and they raised their voice to the level that it was almost, not polite at all in the presence of the Prophet. So this verse came. This verse came that, oh, you who believe, never raise your voice in the presence of the Prophet. Never raise your voice over the Prophet, of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي. And this is true even today when somebody goes to the mosque of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. People should show their respect when they are there and keep silence, because still Muslims believe this applies also to the time after the Prophet as well. Then the verse says, وَلَا تَجْهَرُوا لَهُ بِالْقَوْلِ وَلَا تَجْهَرُوا لَهُ بِالْقَوْلِ كَجَهْرِ بَعْضِكُمْ لِبَعْضٍ. When you talk to him, do not talk loudly like you talk to one another. or do not call him by his personal name, by his first name. You know, when friends talk to one another, they might talk loud, they might laugh loud, they might, do certain things in the presence of their close friends. They might sit in a way that they do not sit in public. The Quran says, do not do this when you talk to the Prophet or you are in the presence of the Prophet. Prophet is not only, he's your leader, he is the messenger of God, and do not call him by his name. This is out of respect to the Prophet. In fact, if you read the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never called the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam by his name. His name is mentioned in the Quran, not in a way that God called on him. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls on the Prophet, he calls him always Ya ayyuha rasul, Ya ayyuha rasul, or Ya ayyuha nabi, or the Prophet, or the messenger of God. Never mentioned, though for other prophets and messengers, God has called on them by their name. Ya Adam, Ya Ibrahim, and other prophets. Ya Isa, for example, Prophet Jesus, called on them by their name, but never for the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is, again, this is one side of the challenges that the Prophet used to face now within the community of believers in Medina. All right. Verse number 3, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن الذين يغضون أصواتهم عند رسول الله أولئك الذين امتحن الله قلوبهم للتقوى لهم مغفرة وأجر عظيم.
Surely those who lower their voices in the presence of the messenger of God are the ones God has tested their hearts for piety. For them is forgiveness and a great reward.
When the previous verse came, many of the companions of the Prophet, they took an oath. They promised themselves that they would never raise their voice in the presence of the Prophet. Everyone said, I would never do that again. And one of the companions of the Prophet, so when they promised not to do this again, this verse came, that those who would lower their voice in the presence of the Prophet, or those who keep their talk short. Yaghud, the word yaghud is either reduce the tone of the voice or to make the talk short. Because sometimes people, they continue to talk and talk and talk in the presence of others and never stop. So this is again a reminder for them in general that when you talk briefly, be to the point. There is no need that you keep talking, not only with the Prophet, with everyone. To be so your talking be meaningful and, as they say, sweet and short. So one of the companions of the Prophet, he read later this verse in the Quran. His name is Thabit ibn Qais. He is a native of Medina. member of the Khazraj tribe. And this man was known as the speaker of the Prophet. So the Prophet ﷺ in many cases asked him to speak on the behalf of Muslims, because he was so eloquent and articulate that the Prophet would choose him to be the speaker for Muslims in many cases. And he began to know Khatib al-Rasul ﷺ, the speaker for the Prophet. And he had a very strong tone, a very strong voice. I guess this is something associated with good speakers, to have a really good voice. When he read this verse, he in fact was very worried and became very sad. And he thought with himself that, you know what, I raised my voice in the presence of the Prophet so many times. Now this verse says, do not raise your voice in the presence of the Prophet. You might lose the rewards of your acts. So somehow he sent a message to the Prophet that, I am very worried, I am concerned, I do not know what to do. The Prophet, in fact, sent a message to him saying, you are fine. Don't worry, you actually served a purpose. You didn't mean to show disrespect to the Prophet. You, in fact, served the Prophet and served your faith. And there is a narration that says, the Prophet said, you are one of those who would be admitted to heaven, Thabit ibn Qais. And then this verse came, those who lower their voices in the presence of the Prophet, God has testified their hearts. امتحن الله قلوبهم للتقوى. So God has testified or certified that their hearts are full of piety. Another word for imtihan, يمتحن, امتحن الله, the word imtihan, test. The other meaning for this word is that God would make their hearts have enough capacity for piety, for faith, and in fact, ready to accept the faith. That's another meaning, as it is mentioned in the tafsir of al-Qurtubi, the one I just mentioned earlier. Yes, and for those are forgiveness and great rewards. Verse number 4 and 5 are related to one another, so please give me a few more minutes to finish these two verses. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن الذين ينادونك من وراء الحجرات أكثرهم لا يعقلون.
Surely those who call out to you from outside the chambers, most of them lack understanding.
So please recall the story I shared with you about this tribe, Bani Tamim, who came to the mosque to meet the Prophet on the year 9, the year of delegations. There are narrations that say this is a tribe, and there are narrations that say another group of people, or maybe same tribe but different people. So a group of people came to meet the Prophet. They arrived shortly after the noon prayer. So the Prophet was done with the prayer and went home to rest, went to one of the chambers to rest. Those people arrived after the Prophet has gone. Because they didn't see the Prophet, they actually walked to the chambers, Hujuraat. Hujuraats were many chambers that they were homes, in fact, homes for the Prophet wives, and also for they were, one of them was a home for Ali, Imam Ali alayhi salam, and Sayyidah Fatima. These chambers were attached to the mosque. Now, if you go to the mosque, inshallah, if you have not been or you have been there, if you stand in the mosque of the Prophet facing Qibla, the direction to Mecca, on your left-hand side, there is an area that separated by fences where the Prophet is buried. This area were the chambers where the Prophet, his wives, and Imam Ali and Fatima lived there. So they came right to this behind the doors, behind the wall, and started yelling, shouting out, Ya Muhammad, ukhruj lana. Oh Muhammad, come out. We want to talk to you. So this definitely was not a polite way to call the leader of the Muslim state now, the Muslim community, and the Prophet, the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember, the Prophet, and we are talking in the year 9th after migration, where almost all Arabian Peninsula was under the influence of the Prophet. He was the head of a state. He united, made all these tribes and regions united. He brought peace to the whole region, so there are no more wars there, no more violence. Yet he was the head of a state, but he did not have guards and security personnel to, keep people away from his home, or to keep them quiet, or to arrange for appointment. None of this. He actually lived among Muslims. He was one of them, not distancing himself from ordinary Muslims. So many would observe this a moral distance and respect their leaders. They knew how to deal with him. And some, they lacked understanding. They lacked this etiquette of how to deal with the Prophet of God and with the leader. He was a leader as in the same time. So like those people, they came, they called by his name. They did not respect his person as a leader and as a prophet, and did not respect his time. This is a time, afternoon, where in many nations, even today, afternoon, they take a time to rest because the weather is hot. So they go back to home and rest for a while until they come little bit in the afternoon. But they somehow did not respect his privacy and his person or his time. So this verse was revealed. And then finally, the verse after that, number 5, it is related to this one. It says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولو أنهم صبروا حتى تخرج إليهم لكان خيرا لهم والله غفور رحيم.
If only they had been patient until you could come out to them, it would have certainly been better for them, and God is oft forgiving and most merciful.
So they were not patient. They lacked this manner and wisdom. They could have waited. The Prophet ﷺ, other than his personal time at home, he is always available, and he was available in the mosque from early morning until after the noon prayer. Then he would take maybe an hour or so rest at home. Then he is at the mosque until maybe uh, after the evening prayer, Isha prayer, the night prayer. Or he might go somewhere, within the city or outside the city. If they were to wait, he would have come by himself. But unfortunately, they lacked this manner. So God says it would have been better for them if they have waited. And then the verse ends with beautifully with a beautiful attributes of God. Wallahu ghafurun rahim. But remember, God is God is oft forgiving. God forgives all the time, and He is always most merciful. So, though they were rude, they didn't know how to deal with the Prophet. Apparently, the Prophet forgave them. But this is for everybody to know about history and to learn as well. By this, we conclude our Quran study for this afternoon. Inshallah, we'll meet you tomorrow. But before we end, if there is any question or a comment, please raise them now. Thank you.